Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome. The Doctor is finally in again. It has been far too long since my last stream. I hope you guys were able to find some way to occupy your time since I've been gone. Yes, finally got some decent air conditioning so I can sit here and talk to you all without feeling like I'm dying. I mean, okay. It wasn't unlivable. It's just that it was difficult for me to sit in the same spot for hours at a time. So, especially when I'm using like a lot of air in trying to voice things. So, visual novel streams were out of the question. But let me real quick check on check on something here because I'm not confident that my sound alerts are audible. Because I noticed that I messed up some of my audio settings when I started this thing, so let me check. That's what I was afraid of. Okay, so let me try this again here. Wait, that's the wrong deal. Advanced audio properties. This would be really great if it didn't hide behind something else. Okay. We're off. Okay. Gonna try this again here.
Hello there.
There we go. All right. Perfect. Perfect. All right, give me just one moment. I forgot to mention to... one place here. Alright, so that is all I needed to take care of before starting. Let us begin. Ah, yes, the definition of a witch. Okay, let me adjust my seat here because I'm not quite situated where I need to be for voicing. Hold on. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, perfect. Oh, better hydrate just a little bit more first as well. "30 minutes have already passed." Oh, we're getting off to a great start here, aren't we? Try that again. 30 minutes had already passed since Rudolph's group had left the guest house. By any measure, their return was too late, and Kraus and Natsuki, who waited by the entrance, were reaching the limits of their patience. The chain was set on the door. That was a precaution in the event that Rudolph's group was attacked and the master key stolen from them. For that reason, they needed to wait by the entrance like this for the others to return. They really are too late. Don't you think something might have happened to them?
Indeed.
Kraus glanced between his watch and the door, struggling to keep his composure. If something happened to prevent them from returning...
A terrible thought, but it seems we should ready ourselves for that possibility. So it really was too reckless after all.
But that is what I said! Why did they go outside when they knew it was this dangerous? How foolish! Why go outside even though Rosa-san had just been attacked?
Nothing will come of saying that now. At any rate, there are now 3 adults in the guest house. Me, you, and Ava, who's asleep with a high fever.
At that time, the forceful sound of a door being opened came from the hallway, and they heard Ava's panicked voice. Wait, hold up. Nothing will come of saying that now. At any rate, there are now 3 adults in the guest house. Me, you, and Ava, who's asleep with the hive. Oh, right. Okay, No. Take that back. Okay, let me count. Let's see. Shannon. Oh, I know. I can just look up the obituaries. Duh. Okay, human side. Apparently I have to click on the witch side before I can get over to the human side. That's dumb. Okay. Yeah, so we've got... Okay, so the first 6 victims were... Genji, Shannon, Cannon, Goda, Kumasawa, and Kinzo. Then Rosa and Maria were the second pair of victims. And then, let's see. Yeah, these 3, Hideyoshi, Kirie, and Rudolph all went to the mansion. Ava's asleep with a fever. Kraus and Natsuki are guarding the door. So these 3 are allegedly the only adults in the guest house. My question is, where'd he go? I mean, presumably they could be talking about family, but it's kind of an interesting statement to make. I don't know. Maybe they just misspoke. Anyway. At that time, the forceful sound of a door being opened came from the hallway, and they heard Ava's panicked voice. That voice kept calling out Hideyoshi's name. It seemed as though she had had a bad dream or something due to her fever, and was calling for her husband. Ava-san! What is it? Are you okay? Where is my husband? My husband isn't here! Even though he promised that he'd stay with me the whole time! Even though he promised that he'd grasp my hand the whole time! Kraus was struck dumb by this attitude of hers, which she had never shown in front of him before, but Natsuki understood her feelings. Calm down. Hideyoshi-san is with Rudolph-san and Kirie-san, and they're outside right now. Outside? Why? Why did he go outside after he promised that he'd stay with me the whole time? You mustn't go outside. The witch is outside. You mustn't go. You'll be killed. Ah! Oh. Hold up.
Ava, calm yourself. Hideyoshi-san returned to the mansion with Rudolph and Kirie-san.
Why did he have to go to the mansion? Why did he go outside even though it's safe here? Why did he go back to the mansion?
They went to get enough food to last until tomorrow. Hideyoshi-san was worried about your health and said that was partly why he wanted to go.
When will they come back? When will they come back? Don't go outside, don't go to the rose garden, don't go to the mansion! The witch is there, the golden witch is walking about! If she finds you, you'll be killed, you'll definitely be killed! When will my husband come back? They left here 30 minutes ago. We are waiting for their return. 30 minutes ago! Isn't that strange? Why would it take so much time for them to go to the mansion to get food and come back? And why are you two just standing around here? We have to go get them! We have to hurry to where they are! Ah! Ava probably had quite a nightmare, and because it had continued even after she woke up, she could no longer hide her panic. Natsuki tried calming her down, but all it did was make Ava's emotions explode even more. Maybe they heard that disturbance. Battler and the kids, who had supposedly been on the second floor, were peeking their faces through the crack of the lobby door. Kraus, Natsuki, Ava, and Battler, George, Jessica, Najo. Everyone in the guest house had gathered by the entrance and understood the current situation. I agree with Mother. We should go to check on Father and the rest. Yeah, that's right. It's even possible that their load's too heavy and that they're having trouble carrying it. They should welcome some extra hands.
This happened right after Rosa-san was attacked. This may have been a secondary disaster to connect it to that. We should act with caution here and...
Don't be a fool! What do you mean, caution? Are you saying we should let my husband die even though he might be begging for help? I'm going to look, and the cowards can stay here. Looking agitated, Ava raised her gun. Judging by her face, it would be useless for anyone to try and stop her. George, who realized that first, raised his head. I'll go as well. You'll go too, right, Battler-kun? The more people, the better. Sure. And Ava, we're coming even if you tell us not to. I'm coming too. I can't be the only one to hide in a safe space. Jessica, you must not go outside. Stay here with me. Got it? It was like they were implying that those three had already been killed anyway, so going outside would be pointless. Natsuhi realized that Ava felt like her heart had been gouged out, but she spoke out strongly as Jessica's mother. You're right. That should be fine. Let's have Nisan's family keep an eye on the guest house. This is a problem for my family and Battler-kun's. And I wonder if Dr. Nanjo would mind coming too. Just in case. In the hall of the mansion, Battler, Ava, George, and Nanjo found the corpses of Rudolph, Kirie, and Hideyoshi. Alright, we've got obituaries, so we're gonna look those up here. Why does it keep opening to the witch side? I don't get it. Anyway. Alright. Hideyoshi died in the mansion's hall with his chest having been pierced by a weapon shaped like a stake. Careless. Who knew she was still alive? Ushiromiya Kirie died in the mansion's hall with her stomach having been pierced by a weapon shaped like a stake. Hey, thank you, Frankly Fraz, for the follow. Appreciate you being here. How's it going? I mean, yeah, to be fair, I think this is like the first time I've actually been able to advertise in your Discord, so. But I appreciate you being here. How are you doing today? Where was I? Died in the mansion's hall with her stomach having been pierced by a weapon shaped like a stake. The stomach isn't a very lethal spot. Wouldn't it have been okay to kill her by a safer method and just stick a stake in the corpse? It's going well. Just finished work. How's it going with you? How's the new AC? Better. So much better. I would have it set to 71 and the temperature would be at 78 before. Now it says 71 and the temperature is 71, so hallelujah for that. But glad to see it's going well with you. Glad to have you here. Ushiromiya Rudolph died in the mansion's hall with his forehead having been pierced by a weapon shaped like a stake. From now on, they have to be finished off with stakes, apparently. Vulgar. Okay, where were we? Hydration. The 4th through 6th twilights? Then the corpses were pierced through the forehead, chest, and stomach with those demon stakes? Yes. The demon stakes were buried into them, one in Rudolph's forehead, one in Hideyoshi's chest, and one in Kirie's stomach. The disorder of the clothing on all three suggests that they were fighting or running away. Since the three corpses were not found right next to each other, it is hypothesized that after coming into contact with the culprit, they attempted some form of resistance. And they had stakes in the forehead, chest, and stomach. Horrible. Just like usual. Even though Ronabe knew it would be superfluous, he contemplated telling Battler the truth. Normally, the witch would have killed him in a much, much more horrible way. The corpse had been left in this manner only because Beato had suggested to the witch that she show restraint. The new witch, thinking it would fit well enough as long as she gouged them with stakes, would probably just have stuck a stake into a lump of meat that wasn't even shaped like a human. Rosa and Maria's corpses were a particularly striking example. If they had been killed as the Golden Witch had wished, just how gruesome would the corpses have been? Beato had changed that into the still better kind of killing Battler had mentioned earlier. Wanting to have Beato's small bit of thoughtfulness appreciated, he thought of telling Battler about this. But judging by Battler's eyes, that might do more harm than good. To humans, the gap between being alive and being dead is very large. Saying that she'd given them better deaths might have made it possible for a demon to understand her feelings and pardon her, but there was no way a human would be so accepting. Understanding this, Ronove remained silent despite knowing of Beato's modest efforts. Just like usual, let's start by checking whether the corpses are dead. Ronove, please declare it in red. Hey, can't you hear me? Please declare it in red. Repeat it! Rudolph, Kyrie, and Hideyoshi are dead.
My apologies. Allow me to decline from repeating that.
The hell? What are you planning all of a sudden? Okay, for context, for those of you who have not been following my Umineko streams, anything that's said in red text is the absolute truth. Now, maybe there's some wiggle wording in there, but, you know, once something is said in red, you do not need evidence to support that claim. It just is. So, by confirming that by using red to confirm that they're all dead, it removes them from the pool of suspects. Hypothetically. There might be some weasel wording in confirming that they're dead somehow, though. One must ask how one could word that in such a way that it would not imply outright chicanery. Alright, so where was I? By now, proclaiming that the victims were dead in red was almost a given in this battle. Refusing to do that was almost like losing by default. So when Ronove refused as part of his first move, Battler was dumbfounded.
My apologies. As of this moment, I relinquish my position as Milady's representative. Accordingly, I cannot repeat that in red. The only one qualified to repeat that is Milady.
His point is a valid one. Ronove is only a representative for Beato's side. If he steps down from that position, and if you will not accept Beato as an opponent, a new representative must be named.
No new representative exists. Please, Battler-sama, please accept Milady as your game partner once more.
Sorry, but that's advice I can't listen to. I definitely won't accept that unpleasant, cruel bastard as my opponent. My refusal to accept her is why I can't step down from this game.
As to her being unpleasant, I apologize in Milady's stead. Allow me to pledge that Milady will not undertake such unpleasant actions again.
I wonder about that. Battler-kun, I also want to apologize as that child's teacher. I'll give that child a good talking to, so please offer your forgiveness just this once. Hey, enough of that! You're making it sound like I'm the bad guy. And no matter how much you guys apologize, it won't reach my ears. If Beato can say that from her own lips, well, I might listen to her. Understood. If that is your only condition for acknowledging your opponent again, let us have that child apologize. Ronove, call for that child. Will that be alright, Battler-kun? Sheesh. Do whatever you want. Still, don't expect me to forgive her. Go get that irritating witch.
You have my thanks, Battler-sama. I shall summon her here. Milady, Battler-sama is calling for you.
After a few heartbeats, gold butterflies gathered together in midair and created Beato's form. It was a much more docile appearance than the one she'd made before. Did you call, Ronove? I believe you heard. Is there something you have to say from your own lips?
It looked as though Beato shrunk slightly under Battler's cold gaze. Several times, Beato made an effort to get the words out of her mouth, but that didn't work so well. And she was just as awkward as someone trying to light a match during a freezing winter with icy hands. Even as she did that, the game board was advancing. In the hall, they had just found the corpses of the new victims and had broken down crying.
Dad! Kirie-san! Ah!
Might be a good time to put up that disclaimer again.
Dear. Mother, hang in there. Even for me, it's so crushing. So sad.
They probably died instantly. I'm sure that even if we had arrived immediately after they fell, it would have been too late.
No, that's wrong. They were definitely alive. His chest was stabbed with something like this. My husband must have died in extreme pain. If we'd come faster, surely they would have been saved. They would definitely have been saved. It must be tough for you too, Battler-kun. But stay strong. I'm okay. It's okay, Aniki. Let me cry just a little bit longer. I've got it the best. I should be the least sad. So if you let me cry just a little longer, I'll be fine. That isn't true. I can understand how much it must hurt your heart to have lost both parents. I still have Mother. That's much better than what you're going through, Battler-kun. No, that's wrong! It's gotta be toughest for you, George Aniki. I understand, Aniki. In this group, you're the saddest and the one who has it toughest. I understand that. So I can't keep on sobbing like this. Ah! Why do you say it's toughest for me? To me, Dad and Kirie-san were people I'd eventually split up with when I grew up and became independent. Since their parents, it was fated that they'd die before their kids. Just happened a little early, that's all. But it's different for you, Aniki. You didn't just lose your parents who would have parted ways with you eventually. You also lost Sanin-chan. Someone you should have spent the rest of your life with. You can't value human lives differently. Whether it's a baby or an old person, they should all be respected the same. So the more life that person has ahead of them, the longer the future you're building together is, the sadder the fact of their death is. Aniki, you were engaged to Shannon-chan, right? You promised that you'd build a life and a home together in the future, right? Compared to how huge that future was, compared to how huge that happiness was, stuff like my pain doesn't even come close. So you should be able to cry much more, Aniki. And that, just because you act like a big brother to us cousins. You force yourself to act like you're so calm. Stop it, Battler-kun.
George was trying to make a calm smile, but already he couldn't stop a single hot tear from leaving a streak down his face.
There's no way I couldn't be sad, right? Together with Shannon, I painted a picture of many futures in my mind. We talked of dreams that couldn't all come true even if we lived 100 years. Of those dreams, even the very first one, having her to move into my family register could not be granted. So there's no way I wouldn't be sad, right? Compared to that, like I said, I have no right to cry anymore. When even you're struggling to hold it, I have no right to shed any more tears. We're the same. We both feel the same sadness from losing those close to us. So there's no rule that says you can't shed any more tears than me, Battler-kun. And for me too, there's no rule that says I have to hold back my tears any longer, is there? Aniki. Aniki. Shana, the one who shared my dreams for the future, is dead. Father's dead too. It's so sad. So sad. As Battler and George hug each other tightly, they cried a waterfall of tears over each other's shoulders for the people who had been so precious to them. Do you understand why I said that George Aniki has the toughest? I was listening, so I understand. Your sadness is proportional to the length of time you would have been able to spend with that person afterwards. Of course, you can't calculate it just like that, though. We humans aren't like you witches. From the time we receive life to the moment we die, we live within that limited period as strongly as we can manage. I can't forgive anyone who makes light of that. And I definitely can't forgive anyone who sneers at people and toys with them. A person like you whose very concept of death is all screwed up probably can't understand that. I'm not just mad because of the length of time they would have lived afterwards. It's sneering at the lives of people living with all they've got. That's what I can't forgive the most. George Aniki lived his life by recklessly doing his best. He must have approached this day with a grim resolve to marry Shana-chan no matter the challenges. That's completely different from me, since I was happy just to be able to meet my cousins after a long while. Still... Beato, for now stay silent and listen. Indeed. In a way, I understand your point. You say you need to continue murdering according to the epitaph for your own resurrection. So, considering your circumstances, I can just barely bring myself to understand your murders. Because to you, it's a necessary course of action. But that means all unnecessary actions you take beyond that are due to your meaningless and brutal tastes. In other words, if killing the 6 people for the first twilight was a necessary action for you, then all that show of crushing their faces and splitting their stomachs and stuffing them full of sweets was completely unnecessary, and caused by nothing more than your brutal hobby. That's an aspect of you I definitely cannot forgive. Indeed. When you saw Aunt Rosa getting repeatedly killed in that horrible way, you apparently said something like, if they're gonna be brought back to life in the end anyway, it doesn't matter how they're killed. I heard from Virgilia. That was, well, that idea that you can kill them as many times as you want as long as you bring them back to life in the end. Isn't that a completely unnecessary action with no purpose other than to toy around with someone's life? If you're gonna kill, do it instantly. Don't toy with them. If you won't kill them, then don't bully them. You're taking advantage of the fact that you can do as you will with people's lives and you've forgotten the sanctity of life. So I can't accept or acknowledge you. I definitely can't accept as my opponent a person who doesn't know the value of a life or the sadness felt when lives are lost. That is why the endless magic is known as a black art. The Endless Witch has no concept of limitations. She has no concept of the limitations and losses caused by breaking and killing. For that reason, Endless Witches sometimes start playing by jumping over the gap between life and death like it's a game. That is a very, very frightening thing. So as an Endless Witch, and by my own choosing, I never reached your level. It was something Virgilia had been trying to tell Beato for a long time,
but Beato had been too young to obediently listen to those words. Oh, good grief, I have been so out of the game for so long that I've completely forgotten that I can do this. Give me just a moment here. Guys, check out Frankly Fraz's channel. He's been playing Chrono Cross as of the most recent stream. He's also played some games like Mega Man Zero, Castlevania. Like, I'm pretty sure I saw those games. Or am I getting confused with another? Hold on. It's been a while. Give me a second. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you were definitely streaming Mega Man Zero at the very least. I remember that. But yeah, enjoyable content. Go check him out. Totally. Tell him Dr. Novelle sent you. It will be well worth your time. Ora! Thank you, Frankly Fraz. Okay, let me hydrate a little bit some more. Yeah. Okay. But Beato had been too young to obediently listen to those words. She had been too wild. She had been possessed by that detestable pleasure. I have been told not to break vases, but that is why I wanted to break them. Then I gained the endless magic. When I knew that I could fix them back to normal no matter how badly I broke them, I was surprised at how much fun it could be to break a vase. That is what's known as forbidden honey. People are not captivated by what's inside. They are captivated by the sealed lock. It is truly regrettable. I want to ask you, Virgilia, why does this thing called the endless magic exist? For what purpose does it exist in this world? It is not limited to the endless magic. All magic exists to bring happiness to the human world. After everything that has happened, it may be difficult for you to believe, Battle-the-Kun, but in order to bring blessings to the human world, we witches are supposed to become bridges between humans and non-humans, and that is why we train so hard. How does reviving the dead and torturing them to death over and over again help the human world? When a vase that was an important memento is broken, but if by fixing it everyone will regain their smiles, I would repair it with magic as many times as necessary. However, I would not be fixing it in order to break it again. I would be reviving it to give humans happiness. In that case, Beato, you fail as an endless witch. Indeed. There's this thing I've been vaguely thinking about. Why do I keep playing this strange game against you? Maybe this game isn't about making me surrender. Maybe it's a test for you to be accepted as an endless witch, in the truest sense. I don't know about that. The reason I proposed this game to you was simply as a way to kill time. There were no ulterior motives at work. Just now I heard the definition of a witch from Virgilia. By that definition, you, Beato, are not even a witch. You're an apprentice who's still in training and who misunderstands her own power. This was supposed to be a fight between a witch and a human. If you aren't a witch, then you aren't qualified to be my opponent. Understand? Say, I'm still only an apprentice. When will I be accepted as your opponent once again? When can we resume this game? Who knows? At the very least, it isn't now. When you fully understand what I've said and become a real witch, I'll probably accept you as my opponent in this game once more.
I can't understand it if you say it so abstractly like that. Clearly tell me what I should do to earn your forgiveness. No, I've said enough. You think about the rest. That's all I want to say. If you can't figure it out, try talking with Virgilia and Ronove. A brat like you should start off by listening to what the adults say. Virgilia, suspend the game for now. Now that Ronove has stepped down as a representative, all we can do is wait for Beato to gain the qualifications of a proper opponent. Understood. Until Beato has been acknowledged as having earned those qualifications, the game will proceed without an opponent. Is that alright with you too, Beato? I have no objections. I want time, and a place where I can think at a leisurely pace. May I leave my seat for that? Yeah, that's fine. Oh, then. See you later. Wait. Don't make that dejected face. Sorry about that. Letting everything inside my heart show up on my face is part of my personality. I cannot deceive. And maybe there's still some hope for you. Let me promise you one thing. In this game with you, I might win and I might lose. If you don't come back, it might be my victory by default. At that point, Battler stopped talking for a second. Then he spoke forcefully. However, I definitely won't be the one to step down. I definitely won't give you a victory by default. I'll keep on waiting here for you to sit there again as my worthy opponent. Battler-sama. Thank you, Battler. I'll definitely come back and be accepted by you. After showing a hopeful smile for a very short while, Beato vanished. After seeing her expression as she left, Battler was absolutely convinced that her face could tell no lies. The 7 survivors returned to the guest house once again. By now it was clear that those who went outside would not return alive. Rudolph's group had gone out with 2 guns and a master key, but those had been lost. It was already clear that those had been stolen by the culprit. Because the shutters were closed on the windows, they couldn't be opened even if the culprit had a master key. The front and back doors that led to the outside were all sealed by chains. And they were further blocked with sofas and tables. Even if the culprit decided to break in through violent means, it wouldn't be easy for them.
At this point, a typhoon may actually be fortunate. If it were clear outside, it might have been possible for them to set fire to the guest house.
If there wasn't a typhoon in the first place, the boat would have arrived before noon. That's not much of a silver lining. Eva-san, how do you feel? Please try to take it easy. Thank you. I still feel like I have a fever, but it's no time to complain about that. For the children's sake as well, this is no time to be bedridden.
After crying so much in front of Hideyoshi's corpse, Eva had felt a strong self-awareness of her position as a mother, and her expression conveyed a strong will. In fact, her fever still hadn't gone down, and she was aware of that. If she didn't keep a strong hold on herself, she felt as though the fever would make her mind hazy again. By this point, the first floor formed a final line of defense set up by Kraus, Natsuhi, and Eva. The children and the guest, Nanjo, had been strongly warned not to go downstairs without taking great care. If the culprit used a ladder or something, it probably wouldn't be impossible for them to attack from the second floor, but it wouldn't be easy for them to break those sturdy shutters from such an insecure position. The second floor was relatively safe compared to the first. Battler and George had also wanted to remain on the first floor so that they could fight if the worst happened, but Eva had put a stop to that. In her mind, George was now the only member of her family, It seemed that she didn't even want to expose him to the danger of coming downstairs to the first floor. Kraus and Natsuki could understand that feeling. Also, a great deal of time had passed since the siege began. In the second floor cousin's room, Battler George and Jessica sat dazed, and didn't even listen to the TV that had been left on. For a while, Nanjo had been with them and had tried to lend them words of encouragement, but when he realized that he might actually be having the opposite effect, he hid himself in his own room on the same second floor. George kept looking dazedly at the photographs inserted in his notebook. It was from the time he'd taken a vacation to Okinawa with Shannon. Shannon's happy smile was contained in those photos. George could remember the temperature and the humidity, the warmth and strength of the wind. And even what... goodness. Water. Okay. Okay, we should be okay now. George could remember the temperature and the humidity, the warmth and strength of the wind, and even what he had been talking about with her at the time those photos had been taken, as clearly as though it had been yesterday. So to George, they weren't simply photos, but a door to bring back warm memories. In this room, even though the sound of the typhoon and the TV should have entered George's hearing, it was the scenery of Okinawa he had seen with her, and her laughing voice that reached his eyes and ears. George had strived to be reborn after meeting Shannon. He had sworn to separate himself from the timid person he had once been, easily caught up in the atmosphere, unable to refuse a request, and easily used by those around him. He had resolved himself to become a strong man who could make her life more joyous. Therefore, if he hadn't met Shannon, the man called Ushiromio George would probably have lived a very different life. And the George of that different life surely wouldn't have been as excellent a man as he is now. Whether or not that is a high bar, I will leave you to decide. The person I am now exists for Shannon's sake. Now that Shannon is gone, why do I exist? It's completely meaningless, isn't it? He felt a deep, deep sadness, as though he himself had become empty. That feeling must have been tormenting him this whole time. However, until Battler mentioned it, he hadn't been aware of the feeling himself. He'd finally managed to remember that it should have been all right for him to cry much, much more. So he cried. Just like Battler had, he cried himself dry. By now, his eyes were bright red and swollen, and he couldn't cry anymore. So George did his best to change his way of thinking. He was not meaningless now, and he should be grateful to Shannon for giving him such a character. The dead don't come back to life. He would have to get over being separated from his most beloved person. If he were to chase after Shannon and kill himself, she would surely be deeply dejected. It worked the other way around, too. If he had died, and Shannon had chased after him, throwing away her own life, he wouldn't have been able to forgive himself. So he chose to surpass his sadness and anger, and decided to thank her instead. After meeting Shannon, she made his days rich and full, and taught him the meaning of working hard for other people's sakes. As a result, she had shaped him into the kind of person he had wanted to be. He wanted to thank her for that. He tried to quell his sadness in this way, but each time he did, he remembered Shannon's smile. He understood it logically. He knew that grieving any more than this would only make her grieve in heaven, but that didn't bring a stop to his sadness.
Why is it? When people die, it's so sad like this. Battler muttered. It was as though he was speaking on behalf of all humans. His question probably hadn't been directed at anyone, but Jessica answered. It's always sad when you have to say goodbye. But when the person's old, or there's some time, when you know beforehand that it's coming sooner or later, that sadness gets spread out over a long period of time. When misfortune comes suddenly, it's sad because you don't even get that time. I see. So if they get sick or something and end up bedridden in a hospital, you might be able to ready yourself for it bit by bit. When it happens suddenly someday, you don't get that luxury. Sadness that's usually spread out over several years closes in on you all at once. That's pretty tough. Sometimes it makes you feel a sadness so deep it can leave scars for life. Scars for life, huh? Like grandfather's occult hobby. People say that's what caused it. That Beatrice, his mistress, died a long time ago and he was so sad that he couldn't pull himself together. Some people whisper that this is why he started sacrificing the rest of his life to occult research in order to revive the dead. If that's true, grandfather succeeded in that miracle in his last moments. The culprit is the revived Beatrice, and grandfather is reunited with her at the moment he was killed. Pretty ironic that he revived her and then got killed by her. Even so, grandfather probably managed to meet her. He gambled half of his life, even though it was only for a short time. He was reunited with a woman he wished to see once again. And he got totally roasted, though. Feels like that result doesn't quite add up to the cost of researching for half his life. That's not true. Even if it was only for an instant, grandfather must have been happy to Grandfather must have been happy to be reunited with the woman he loved. And that would be true, even if his crime was going against divine providence, was punished by God, and his body was burnt and sent down to hell. Even if that reunion will only last a very short time, right? Toji-san. I wouldn't care if I met with the wrath of God and had my body burned. Even if it was just for a short amount of time, if I could revive Shannon again. I would sacrifice the rest of my life to the same research as grandfather. I want to talk with Shannon again, even if it's only for 5 minutes. Even 1 minute would be fine. In exchange, I wouldn't mind sacrificing the rest of my life. Haniki. When Battler and Jessica realized that their pointless discussion was causing George pain, they could do nothing more than shut their mouths. George directed his thoughts to Kinzo's life. He sacrificed half his life to research that no one understood, and on the last day of his life, he revived the person he loved most, and probably succeeded in his reunion in his final moments. George didn't know how much time they'd had together. He didn't know if they'd been given an hour or just 5 minutes. However, that moment must have been enough to reward him for all those months of research. Even though he spent dozens of years to achieve it, that small amount of time was probably more than worth it to him. Until today, I never believed in the occult or magic or anything. Somewhere in my heart, I even made fun of grandfather's research, thinking of it as nothing more than a pastime. However, I won't make fun of it anymore. No, to the contrary, I'll believe strongly that it's real. If the power of belief can create miracles, I'll probably throw away all my studies up until today, spending the rest of my life from today onwards studying magic. Give me the power of magic, and give me a miracle that'll let me see Shannon again. Sorry, you two. What am I talking about? If you could revive the dead with magic, people would probably be researching it everywhere around the world. Things like that don't exist in reality. No one researches it. That's because they know the dead can't be revived with magic. Sorry for saying something so weird. In fact, the dead could not be revived by alchemy. However, such results may not have been tested thoroughly with magic. That lesson cost 2 young alchemists an arm and a leg and a body. Sorry for saying something so weird. It's my fault the atmosphere here has gotten so strange. Sorry for making you tiptoe around me, even though this is tough for us all. Even if I did it to divert myself from my sadness, maybe I did something strange. If I keep talking about that stuff that's so weird, I'm sure it won't do anything good for their sadness. But that doesn't mean I can bear this silence. I'll go downstairs and get another cup of coffee. Mom's very particular about how she likes hers. Does anyone else want a refill? Battler Hood and Jessica-chan slightly shook their heads, without pressing them any further. Without pressing them any further, I took my mug and left the room. The shutters were all closed in the hallway, so the corridor was very dim. I tried visiting Dr. Nanjo's room and asking if he wanted more coffee, but he said he didn't need any either. It seems my mother's orthodox method of making coffee isn't universally appreciated. One time I made some for Shannon, but she told me that while it was delicious, it was a little strong. I wonder if he makes Turkish coffee. Shannon. That's no good. Even though I left the room to change my mood, that image of Shannon's face filling my head hasn't faded in the slightest. I keep seeing those fun days with her more and more vividly. It's saddening that I never even got a chance to see her dead face. According to our parents, she was apparently killed with something like a gun or a spear. I'm sure they were just trying to console me, but they said that her dead face had been very beautiful and peaceful. I wonder if she had the engagement ring I gave her last night on her finger. If she accepted my engagement, she should have had it on the ring finger of her left hand. Last night we were both on the edge of losing it and not calm at all. Shannon accepted my engagement pretty courageously, but she might have regretted that as a rash action once she cooled her head. She might have taken the ring off. I wonder if she has the ring on now. I want to be sure of at least that much. I want to know how she felt at the very end. But even if I do confirm that, doesn't mean that she'll come back. I wonder what will happen to her body. After the autopsy, it'll probably be immediately cremated. And I'll never be able to get to see her face, even her dead face, for all eternity. Is the shock of losing Shannon made me go a little crazy? I don't want her body to be burned. If she's burned and turned to ash, never again will it be possible for her to revive. They say cremation is frowned upon in Western tradition, because on the day of resurrection there would be no body to revive. Because of that, it seems that great criminals in Western history were often cremated after execution as a punishment, and their ashes were sometimes scattered in rivers and such. In other words, to Western people, death is nothing more than a sleep until the resurrection. It is essential that the corpse is left after death. In other words, that's because Western people knew of a miracle that can revive the dead. But that miracle didn't exist in Japan, so we burned them. Now I understand. I understand why his grandfather idolized the Western occult. That was his only reason from the very beginning. Just to revive the person dear to him, grandfather spent the rest of his remaining life researching the Western occult. The situation surrounding us now is abnormal. Grandfather did revive his beloved Beatrice. And that Beatrice has carried out a terrible serial murder, with linked closed rooms that force us to conclude that magic was used. The Golden Witch Beatrice, the incarnation of the miracle of the Western occult, and also the culprit who killed Shannon. She's an entity I should hate, and yet, for some reason, I want to cling to her. I wonder if Shannon could be revived with the magic of miracles, which Grandfather bet his life on. According to the legend of the Ushiromiya family, Grandfather met with her long ago and was given a vast quantity of gold. And if I also met with her, instead of gold, would she give me Shannon's life? As collateral, I don't care what sort of devil's contract she imposed. I wouldn't mind sacrificing all of my remaining life. George probably couldn't believe or realize that his voiceless wish was heard by the witch herself, who stood right behind him. Beatrice had been listening to the entire discussion between the children just now in the cousins' room. Battler had told her that she didn't know the value of a human's life, and wanted to understand that in her own way, she had stealthily visited, listening in on their discussion. That is your wish, you say? If I could grant that, would I be accepted as a witch? Beato looked at the palms of both her hands. She had handed over most of her once surging magical power when the new witch succeeded the name of the Endless Witch. Of course, her current power still made her worthy of being called a witch, but it could not begin to compare to her previous strength. Even without the endless magic, I am a great witch whose name has been thundered for 1,000 years. Reviving the dead will be no trouble at all. Inside her head, she thought about several magical steps she could take to revive the dead. Even magic that should have been easy in the past would be difficult with her current power. She thought of something, then clicked her tongue, then did so again over and over. In the end, she finally thought of a single spell. But that was a spell that she couldn't use by herself. It was a spell that witches with weak power used, one that relied on the aid of others. In the past, Beato had looked down upon that type of magic. Therefore, she frantically tried to search for any conceivable alternative. But in the end, she couldn't think of one, and slumped over in self-derision. Then, careful not to surprise him, she softly called out, softly to George's heart. Ushiromiya George, can you hear my voice? I can hear you. Who are you? Are you really the witch Beatrice? Or are you an illusion created by my sorrow? If it's the former, please hear my wish. And if it's the latter, just leave me alone. Their conversation in a mental world was a lot like having one in a dream. When you dream, haven't you ever had the experience of casually accepting something that would have been absurd in the real world? The conversation in this world was like that. So even though a witch appeared and started talking to George, he was not surprised. Indeed, I am the Golden Witch Beatrice. Normally you and I would not be able to talk together in this manner. However, you are strongly conscious of me and wish to have a discussion. So both of our channels are able to match like this. I don't care if the person who killed Shannon was you, or someone else using your name. As long as you exist as a real witch, I'll pay whatever it costs you ask for. If you desire my life, take it right now. Please, I want you to bring Shannon back to life. If that's impossible, I'd be satisfied if you just let me talk to her for a short while. Please. I ask for nothing in return. I shall grant that wish. Really? Really, you'll revive Shannon? Indeed. However, my current magical power is not sufficient to use the magic of resurrection. Therefore, I must rely on your help. If there's anything I can do, I'll do it. Even if that means taking my heart out right here and right now, I will not hesitate. I told you I don't need anything like that. I will chant the magic. Then a gap will open in the door to the land of the dead. But as I am now, I do not have the power to bring Shannon's soul up through that gap. However, you have strong feelings for Shannon, and those feelings will surely become magic that can bring her soul out without fail. What do you say? Will you help me? I will. If Shannon's life will be restored, there's nothing I'm afraid to lose. George's fist shook in silence.
Then he slowly came to his senses. He had been absent-mindedly standing near the window in the hall that whole time, his mug still in his hand. And the witch from his dream was still there. What the? It isn't a dream. Be quiet. I am very fragile now. Any more humans appear, I will not be able to preserve this form. I shall grant your wish, so stay silent for now. Understand? George covered his mouth with both hands, nodding enthusiastically several times. In that instant, he almost dropped the mug he was holding. George frantically juggled it around and caught it. He was afraid that if it fell to the floor and made a loud sound, the witch's form might disappear like a bubble popping. He softly set the mug on the floor and stared at the witch in front of him again. Her form didn't disappear. It wasn't a dream. Come, let us go to the parlor where Shannon sleeps. With the power of your feelings, we'll bring back her soul. You say go, but how? My mother and the rest are downstairs. There's no way they'd let us go outside. And didn't you just say that you wouldn't be able to preserve your form if another human appeared? Come to think of it, that is true. So Kraus and the rest are downstairs. In that case, we definitely cannot go down. Well then, we just need to go to the mansion without going down to the first floor, right? It's simple. Beato laughed as though she had thought of a pleasant prank. And with her golden pipe, she lightly tapped a window with its shutter closed. When she did, 3 gold butterflies appeared from the pipe and opened the lock on the window as though melting it. Then the window opened without a sound. The shutter beyond it was exactly the same. The clasp unset itself, also without making a sound, and it quietly opened. The window opened, exposing the wind and rain outside the mansion. Perhaps because of the direction or something related to the construction of the building, the wind did not blow inside. Because of that, for a while, George felt as though this entrance that opened to the outside was a dream or an illusion, and he couldn't accept it as real. Come, let us go. Come with me. Beato gently floated upwards. It was a natural action, like that of a diver enjoying an underwater stroll. It made it easy to believe that if you acted like she did, you too might be able to float in the sky just as though you were swimming through the water. No, George did believe that. So without thinking, just as she had done, he also, gently, as though swimming in the water, lifted his feet. Oh, not bad. So you learned how to dance in the sky faster than I could explain it. George was shocked to find himself floating in midair like he was swimming. Of course, Beato was also shocked that George, who shouldn't have been able to use magic, had figured out how to do that just by instinct. To be able to fly in the air, to swim in the air. You mustn't be bound by reason. Accept it as a natural thing. You mustn't fall back to your human doctrines, such as those of Newton and Einstein. Especially when flying high in the sky, an experience which is sometimes plummet to the earth. I accept things for what they appear to be. I accept things for what they appear to be. George repeated those words over and over. He must not deny magic no matter what. Yeah, just don't focus on the wind and the rain, and you'll keep floating there. Yeah. Because, the moment you take your eyes off the person that's making that possible, you start falling. It's not good. Not good at all. Denying that would be like throwing away what might be his first and last chance to revive Shannon. However, compared to Beato, who was elegantly drifting like smoke, George's movements clearly resembled someone underwater. Therefore, if he didn't act like he was kicking his feet in water every once in a while, he'd be caught by the force of gravity bit by bit. I must say, you're doing better than when I first danced for the sky. Here we go. Come with me. When Beato beckoned to George, she gently flew into the stormy sky. It was just like a scene from a fairy tale. The scene unfolding before George's eyes felt entirely like an extension of his dream. Being able to fly is incredible, but so is the wind and the rain.
What's this? Are the wind and the rain tormenting you? I can teach you magic to block against that, but it may be too early for you, and it may be a misuse of time right now.
Yes, the magic I need isn't that. George wore a strong-willed gaze, refusing to let the wind and rain get to him.
Well, I mean, do you think you'd have an easier time flying if the wind and rain weren't there? Like, physically, should it be possible for you to fly at all if the weather is perfectly clear? Just remember, there is no spoon. The mansion is coming into sight. Hold out just a little longer. If you fall now, you'll hit the bushes in the rose garden.
The undulating rose garden was spread beneath the witch and George's gazes. This illusion-like scene no longer surprised George. Only the gradually approaching mansion was reflected in his eyes.
Shannon, wait for me. I'll definitely revive you.
At that time, the cruel new witch could be seen staring at the guest house from a different location.
Now all that's left is the 7th and 8th Twilights. Just 2 more and my obligation to that old hag predecessor is finished. I'll kill Kraus and Natsuhi. Let them die together like the good couple they are. Where is the target? Yeah. In the lobby, on the first floor of the guest house, 2 targets and Ushiromiya Eva identified. Measuring anti-magic power levels. Data linked to 410. 410, data received. Anti-magic power levels are extremely low. If Ava just goes outside, they're tuna and abalone on a chopping board. What do you think, Great Lady Beatrice? When you give the order, we shall snipe right away. Please, your orders. You guys really are convenient furniture. Not at all like the old second-hand furniture that's only useful for gouging corpses. Right? Chiester sisters, please show me your skill once more. Prepare to fire. And carry out the corpses again, got it? 'Cause I'll play with them a lot. No complaints from you, right, Ronave?
Correct. As you command. At that moment, the witch noticed something. It was as though some presence had disappeared. Was it her imagination?
Was that someone's presence just now? Did anyone feel it? My apologies. I haven't noticed anything, so please forgive me. We were in the middle of observing the guest house, so our peripheral surveillance was set off. What about you, Lucifer John? Did you feel any presence?
For just an instant, Lucifer glanced at Ronave, asking whether she should answer honestly or not. Ronave gave a small nod in response. No. My apologies, Beatrice-sama. We noticed nothing. Forgive us the stupidity of us second-hand furniture.
I see. If a great demon like you says that, then it must have been my imagination.
The witch persistently stared in the direction the presence had disappeared to. That was where the rose garden lay, and beyond that, she could see the mansion's dark silhouette creating by lightning. It took quite some time before she pushed her unsatisfied feelings aside, and once again faced the guest house. Chapter break. Okay, so we're going to put on the Be Right Back screen here momentarily and run a few ads. I'll be back after getting up to stretch and move about for a bit. So, thank you for being here. I will be back shortly.
And we're back. Okay, let me just hydrate a little bit more. Probably should have done that before I turned off the be right back screen, but whatever. Alright, where was I? The guest house lobby was wrapped in silence. The strings of tension binding Kraus, Natsuhi, and Eva had already loosened, and they were completely worn out, with their minds beginning to waver. Well, my cat has decided to try and attack this brown paper bag. It's like a flat cat trap. What you doing? What you doing? Yeah. If you'd like to join my Discord, I have a picture of her loafing on said flat cat trap that I shall share momentarily if I have not already. Yeah, I haven't already, so there we go. This was taken earlier in the day, the picture that I just shared, if you were in the Discord and taking a look at it now, but now she's attacking that thing that she was sitting on. She is a silly creature. Okay. Every once in a while, they would stand up and walk around pointlessly, as though fighting their drowsiness. Are you okay, Eva-san? Please do take it easy and rest. I told you I'm fine. The three of us are now the only adults. There's no time to rest. No matter what the cost, we must guard this place until the end. She spoke bravely, but she couldn't hide her rough breathing. It seemed that the fever, which had been calmed with medicine for a short time, had returned. It was very obvious that Ava's health was not good.
Take it easy. At least close your eyes. If something happens that you need to be awake for, we'll definitely wake you.
I'm telling you, I'm fine! Leave me alone!
It seemed she was already unwilling to budge. Kraus and Natsuhi realized that even if they talked to her any more when she was like this, it wouldn't reach her ears. So without saying anything more, they decided to let her be. To Ava right now, even having an argument like that would be burdensome. It would probably be better for her body if she just sat there with her mouth closed. In truth, Ava was just a step away from being beaten down by drowsiness. Perhaps she shot back at them with a temper because she was trying to rouse herself and throw off her sleepiness. The clock would be pointing to 6 in the afternoon very soon. She had several snacks to distract herself from her drowsiness so she didn't feel hungry. But now her lack of sleep made it feel like it was 6 in the morning, not the afternoon. I'd argue it's more 6 in the evening based on the time of day, or based on the, color of the sky, basically. Height of the sun, there we go. Yeah, so it's October, what is it? Yeah, October 5th here. So if it's October 5th and it's 6 p.m., that means it's definitely dark out, so kudos on getting the time right. Even supposing that the boat came precisely at 9 in the morning tomorrow, they still had more than 12 full hours to go. It was an overwhelmingly long stretch of time. Long, painful, hot. Even the sound of the clock torments my body now. In times like this, when that person puts his hand on my forehead, the fever fades at once. But that person no longer exists. As Ava's mind grew foggy, she was once again gripped by a deep sadness. She had already cried herself dry. Even so, the sadness of losing her beloved husband had not been exhausted. I was wrong. What do you mean? The new witch and Ava were fundamentally the same being. If Ava talked to her, she would always respond. I thought that if I could gain the position of the Ushiromiya family head, that alone would be enough. But then as soon as I saw that mountain of gold, my greed grew.
I was struck by a desire to have that mountain all to myself. That's nothing to be ashamed of. After all, it's your natural right as the Ushiromiya family head. How could you give up even a bit of it to anyone else? I was gripped by that temptation, which is why you were born. While you were a young girl version of me, at the same time you were also my self-centered evil heart. Because my foolish greed spouted by that mountain of gold, that the shell of the egg that is my heart cracked, and you were born into this world. I am responsible for your birth. In that case, when I killed Rosa and Maria, and then Rudolph and Kirie and Hideyoshi, you were responsible for that too. Why did you kill my husband too? Why? Ah! I didn't want to kill Hideyoshi. He was just so annoying and persistent. And that's no, your fault. It's your fault for choosing a husband like that. A child like you cannot understand what made that man so wonderful. Oh, dear. What the heck? Our dreams were made real with magic, right? We solved the riddle of the epitaph, then we found the gold and got the head's ring. All of our dreams came fully true, right? What more could you want? Those weren't all of my dreams. What about living a wonderful life with that person and giving George an excellent life? I still have many dreams that haven't come true. As a wife, as a mother. And yet... Those are just extra dreams you added after becoming an adult. They aren't my dreams. That's because you're a child. Do you only care about what's best for yourself? That's right. Everything is my fault. Back then, why did I resist doing what Rosa told me to? Why couldn't I announce to all of the siblings that I found the gold? It's all because I'm so hideous. My evil heart, which sprouted from my desire to have all that gold for myself, caused you to hatch! Looks like you really hate me, even though we're both Ushiromiya Eva. No, that isn't true anymore. It was you who said it. I am Ushiromiya Eva, and you are the Golden Witch Beatrice. So just disappear! Witches are imaginary illusions that only exist in fairy tales. Things like you should just disappear! Never appear in front of me again! Yeah, you're right. I understand. I'll disappear from in front of you. And I am no longer Ushiromiya Eva. From now on, I'm the Golden Witch Beatrice. So I can play now however I want. I don't even care about you. If only you just give up and die. After having a very childlike tantrum, the witch who had once been another Ava vanished. Only Ava was left behind in the darkness, and she questioned herself. Me? I killed them? Did I kill that person? Did I kill him? She could no longer answer that question herself. It seemed that half asleep, she had gotten some saliva caught in her windpipe just as she was dozing off. Ah, man, that is the worst. I hate that. Ava suddenly started coughing.
Are you okay, Ava? Please, Natsuhi, some water.
Yes. I'm fine, okay? I just choked a bit.
Ava pushed away Natsuhi's hand as she tried to rub her back and unsteadily rose her to her feet.
I'm going to go wash my face. Sorry, I fell asleep. When I get back, I'll make some more coffee. Extra song so that I won't get drowsy until tomorrow morning.
Yes, please do. Your coffee's more to my taste than what Goda makes.
I'm glad to hear it, even if it's flattery. I'll be back soon.
Ava exited the lobby, heading for the bathroom. Kraus and Natsuhi watched over her frail back.
So you do sometimes show concern for Ava-san, even though you've always been so much at odds with her.
Isn't this how an older brother's supposed to be?
Yes, I believe you're right.
It isn't just Ava. There's Rudolph and Rosa, too. Instead of acting like an older brother to them, all I ever did was speak arrogantly and bully them. In my own way, I was frantic in my desire to be like father. But I could never match up, and I always vented my feelings on them. But that is no excuse. I probably gave Ava scars so deep that they still haven't healed. I regret it, but even if I apologized after all this time, it would do nothing to heal those wounds.
If you can hold on to that feeling instead of only letting it last for this moment, I'm sure your siblings will come to see it sooner or later.
Sibling, that two of them are dead, remember? Thank you, Kraus, thank you. Though by now Ava's the only sibling I have left.
If only you and your siblings hadn't been born into the Ushiromiya family, you might have had a more normal, more fun sibling relationship.
Natsuhi spitting facts there. You mustn't say that. Ava will probably continue to hate me for her whole life, and she has a right to. I intend to resign myself to that fact and accept it.
Dear.
Ava, I'm sorry. Of course you don't have to forgive me.
Of course I won't forgive you. What are you talking about after all this time? Oh, so now you're feeling guilty. If only you'd just give up and die right now. Do it, Chester sisters! Firing, 45, firing permission received. Reconfirming firing arc, correcting for weather discrepancies. Data link to 410. Data 410, data received, firing permission confirmed. Firing!
Together, the sisters released the magical bowstring that they had readied. A beautiful tail trailed behind the gold arrow, and it drew a lovely curve as it flew. It was just like a gold snake. It skillfully avoided a grove of trees and flew towards the front door of the guest house. Then it flew into the keyhole of the door and snuck into the guest house without any problem at all. The gold snake raced down the hall smoothly, yet as fast as an arrow. Right before it was the door to the lobby. When it flew into the keyhole, Kraus and Natsuhi were already. For an instant, Kraus thought he saw a gold-colored sparkle in the keyhole on the door. However, at the same time as he strained his eyes to see what it was, that sparkle bent like a whip and attacked, wrapping itself around Kraus's neck. Just looking at it, the gold snake seemed very supple. However, it was as though a wire had tightened around Kraus's neck. And while that snake choked Kraus, it extended even more and also tightened around Natsuhi's neck. Without even a chance to scream, their eyes bulged as they went into convulsions and then collapsed.
45, hit and kill confirmed. Formulating towing curve, revising capture points. Data link to 410. 410, data received. Initiating corpse towing. We got both of them, yeah?
The gold snake began to drag Kraus and Natsuhi's bodies back. They slipped through the door to the corridor, dragging the bodies, gradually increasing in speed, and rapidly pulled them outside the guest house. So the lobby was silent, as though nothing had happened. As though Kraus and Natsuhi had not been there since the beginning. Only the sound of the wind and the rain remained, as if they were playing dumb and pretending to be the only ones there.
Sorry, I'm fine now. I'll go make some coffee.
Ava returned from the bathroom, but no one was in the lobby. Even though they had supposedly been in that sofa until the moment she had choked and gone to the bathroom, they were gone, as if they'd been an illusion from the very beginning.
How careless of them. Where did those two go off to together?
Ava put her hand on the sofa as though acting out a scene from a detective novel. She felt a warmth that meant that they had been sitting there until a short while ago. Maybe they went to do the rounds or something. Sorry. For the time being, Ava sat down and waited for their return. Beato and George could be seen in the parlor of the mansion. George was kneeling near Shannon's body as though praying. His face was serious, and there was even sweat on his forehead. Although, that kind of looks like his cheek here, but we'll allow it. However, Beato was the same. Now that she had handed her name over, most of her previous power had been lost. Of course, she still had more than enough power to be called a witch, but compared to the past, it was a very faint thing.
Good. Don't talk to her, don't touch her with your hand. Call to her with the voice of your heart and seek her with the hand of your heart. Only your strong feeling can make my magic reach Shannon's lost soul.
George kept praying earnestly and silently. He kept frantically yelling inside his heart, trying to call back the soul of the person he loved. He strongly envisioned his soul leaving his body and searching for her as she wandered through the land of the dead. Beato turned that strong force into magical power that supplemented her own magic. This was magic that, in the past, she could have performed easily without anyone's help. But now, if she didn't rely on someone's assistance, she wouldn't be able to finish the chant, much less succeed.
I'd forgotten for several centuries. Was magic? Was resurrection always this difficult?
Beato was wearing an even more strained expression than George. It had slipped her mind, but originally the magic to revive a life was the ultimate hidden art. The abnormal thing was her previous magical power, which could be used over and over with a snap of her fingers.
And hey, Christonium, thank you for joining. How goes it? How are you doing? Thank you for being here. Aha! Yes, thank you for this resub. You guys get to hear the new subscription music. Wow, 9 months. Appreciate ya. And tier 2. Wow. Awesome. Thank you so much, Christonium. And just for that, although I was going to do it anyway, hold on. Guys, check out Christonium's channel. He's been playing Satisfactory as of late. When you get to... words. Sorry. Yeah. Go check him out. Give him a follow. You know, whenever he streams, check him out if you can. Always a good time to be had. So, anyway, how have you been? How have you been? Oh, it's Twitch, baby. I just now saw that. That's funny. That's funny. How have you been? What have you been up to? While I wait for a response, I will continue reading. Oh, there we go. Been busy with work. How have you been? It's been a bit. Yeah, yeah, my AC has been terrible for the past month. So I would have it set to 71, and around the time it got to evening, it would, though I had it set to 71, this thermostat was reading 78, and so it's like, can't stream in that kind of nonsense. Had a window unit for a while, but that was too noisy, so couldn't stream with that going on either. Finally, everything's working as God intended, so I'm able to stream again. But yeah, I have also been busy with work and the like. It's been kind of a crazy month, honestly, and you know, oh, and then there was the concussion that I got during the last month. That was fun. But I've recovered from that long since, so thank God for that. All right. But yeah, good to see you here. Hope you enjoy. Let's continue. After I hydrate for a bit. Well, actually, no. Running the PC was something I actually did on a regular basis in that kind of heat. My problem is I have a very specific seat in which I have to sit for when I stream. And if I sit in this particular spot long enough, it gets kind of uncomfortable. And that's with the air normal. This is part of the reason why I have to get up and stretch every hour or so. So that way I can kind of cool down a bit. Because, like, my air is at the point where it's like, it's... If I make it any colder, it's going to be too cold. But it's not enough to, like, keep me from overheating if I sit here too long. So streaming in those kinds of conditions would be a no-go. And thank you for redeeming first, Chris. I appreciate it. All right. Hydration achieved. We will continue. The abnormal thing was her previous magical power, which could be used over and over with a snap of her fingers. So the heavy burden on her body and mind was, fundamentally speaking, extremely natural. However, this man's power, even though he doesn't know magic, it's nothing to be laughed at. I see. So he truly is Kinzo's grandchild. The strong energy pouring from George was large enough to act as magical power. At first, Beato thought it must be the blood of Kinzo the sorcerer. However, that probably wasn't it. She had a feeling the battler had already told her what it was. It had been born from the power of George's sadness at the death of the person he loved, and from the way he had tried his hardest throughout his life. From the warm time spent together with Shannon to the size of the dream they swore to protect in the future. Is it really possible for humans to take life so seriously, even though they only have a single one? It was only natural. To her, a life didn't mean anything more than the difference between the top and bottom of an Othello piece. If the black represented death, then she thought all you had to do was flip it over again and make it white. However, it was just like that broken vase. To humans in a world without magic, where they cannot return things to their original form, it is very, very natural for them to bet their life and soul. Hold on, gotta change my seating arrangement here. One moment. Okay, I think we should be good now. Yeah, that's better. So, is an endless switch who can do as she pleases even with life and death, inferior to a limited human who cannot even surpass the mountain of death? This time the witch acknowledged it. He was able to hold a magical power that could never reside in witches who did not understand the value of a life. Why does this thing called the endless magic exist? Even though I called myself the Endless Witch, did I forget what the endless magic means for 1,000 years? She looked at George's expression again. His surging earnestness was like a lightning bolt. Right now, even if George's body had been burned or smashed by a waterfall, he would probably continue to pray for his beloved without minding it, without noticing it. For the first time, she showed respect for that power. So in that instant, all magical resistance was lost, and the enormous power of George's feelings turned into magical energy in its complete form. The vase was very beautiful, rich with history and value. Even as young as I was, it still forced me to take a deep breath when I witnessed its beauty. That just made me want to touch it. But the vase easily fell and smashed into pieces, like a bubble that had popped. It felt as though the time it possessed a form had just been an illusion. Lives are just that fragile, just that easily lost. I realized that my foolish curiosity had led to something that couldn't be undone. No matter how much I regretted it, no matter how much I apologized, the smashed vase wouldn't return back to its original form. A lost life will not return to normal no matter what happens. I was frightened that even though my actions had been thoughtless and careless, they had stolen away a life that could never be revived again. Then I pitied that lost life and cried. I was frightened of myself, the one responsible for its loss, and cried even more. Sorry. I'm sure Grandfather will also cry at the loss of his precious vase. I'm sure that all the people who love Grandfather and see him like that will cry. Hey, Rocky 2095, glad to see you again. How have you been? I know, it has been a while. I am doing well. Air conditioning is working again as God intended. So, hooray for that. With the loss of a single life, the whole world can be filled with so much sadness. I cried even more at how terrible that was. Beatrice appeared and spoke. Then, milady, let us revive that vase with magic. If that will make everyone happy, the vase and the magic and the spirits will happily lend you their power and return it to its original form. Oh, no, don't worry about it. Just, it's, I'm sorry to hear that's been on your mind for a month. Man, I didn't mean for you to take that badly. I was just saying, you don't need to do that because the link's already in the chat. So, speaking of which, I don't know if you can see it, but it is already in the chat. Although, tell you what, if someone new comes in, you go ahead and use that. As long as it doesn't automatically pop up from stream elements. But, all the people that are here have had a chance to see it now so far. But, so we're good. Okay. Come, milady. Close your eyes and chant with me. Come, try closing your eyes, and try to remember, what form did you have? It was surely a very, very beautiful form. Please show me that form one more time. I did see the new Assassin's Creed game announced. Didn't see the trailer or anything. I just saw that it's a thing that exists. I may look into it eventually. I kind of need to get back to finishing. Goodness. I kind of need to get back into finishing Assassin's Creed Odyssey at some point, which I should probably do. Well, I don't know. I just haven't been in the mood to continue, even though I've finally finished Horizon Forbidden West and shouldn't have the muscle memory give me grief anymore. But yeah, I need to finish Odyssey. Then I want to start Valhalla because I own that one. At some point I'd like to play Syndicate, although that one's not exactly high on my priority list. I just own it because it was on sale. But yeah, I heard a rumor, I don't know how true this is, that they're going to be just kind of dropping the present day aspect of Assassin's Creed and just focus on the historical assassins. If that is so, I welcome that 100% because I haven't felt that the present day segments have been any good since Desmond. Actually, I'd argue that they haven't been any good even during Desmond's tenure. Like, I think Assassin's Creed 3 was where it kind of started falling off the wagon, so to speak. But yeah, I do enjoy the gameplay of the series, though, and that's why I stick around. I hope that Assassin's Creed Mirage ends up being a return to form. Hopefully an improvement. An improvement would be great. Those words of power knocked forcefully on the door to the land of the dead. The magic of her old self had performed that same forceful knock. However, doing it that way was horribly violent, and earned the displeasure of the peacefully sleeping dead. But this time was different. It was very forceful, and yet gentle and loving. The dead near the door opened their eyes, and called out to the others that there was a voice calling for someone to come back. The sadness of that voice calling from the outside touched the hearts of the dead. Reminds you of Aladdin a little bit. That's kind of neat. I do like Aladdin. Aladdin was a good movie. But at least the original animated one was. I didn't bother watching the live action remakes. Just because, I don't know, like, ever since Beauty and the Beast, they've just been either too similar to the original without any of the charm, or they've been so entirely different that it's just, like, doesn't even feel like it should be called the same movie. Granted, Mulan's the only one that actually fits that latter description as far as I recall, but, yeah. So, yeah, I just haven't really bothered with the remakes since Jungle Book. Which is a shame, because, you know, Jungle Book was actually really good. The sadness of that voice calling from the outside touched the hearts of the dead, and, trying to respond as quickly as possible, they searched for Shannon's lost soul. And then, they found it. They found the casket in which Shannon was peacefully sleeping. It truly was Shannon's soul sleeping in the land of the dead. Inside the casket that was covered with rose flowers, frozen with frost, she was sleeping in peace. The dead silently lifted that casket up. While at a glance it looked like a funeral march, it had the complete opposite meaning. It was solemn, but filled with joy. The long-forgotten dead were made to remember that they were loved after their deaths, and they were all given a warm sense of peace. Then, as though guided by a warm light from the heavens, Shannon's body floated up out of the casket. The dead watched her go. They squinted at that warm light, offering their respect to this unknown member of the living, who had not lost his love for a person even after their death. Shannon's body was enveloped in the light from the heavens and began to disappear. In the jet-black darkness of the land of the dead, the faint flickering of gold butterflies could be seen. I heard about GTA 6. That's not been a series I've really followed at all. Like, ever. It's just not really my thing. You know, if you like it, great. You know, that's like, I perfectly understand that there are games that are going to appeal to some people and that do not appeal to me, and vice versa. Check out Steel Rising. Okay, the title sounds familiar. I don't recall ever... I know I haven't played it, for sure. But, give me a second here. I'm gonna look it up. Okay, Steel Rising. What is that? Steel Rising. Oh, okay, so it's not on It's not on PlayStation. Let me check. Well, at least not on PS4/5. Let me check Steam. Oh. Not Steel Rising. Okay, that's... Or, if it is still I did share this information with a friend of mine. Let me look that up. Oh, okay, it's one word. That's why it wasn't coming up. Okay. Yeah, that is something I would like to check out at some point. I kind of need to... Well, let me rephrase that. I kind of hate to try another Souls-like when I already own Dark Souls 1 through 3 and have only gotten through part of 1. I did finish Elden Ring, though, so there's that. But yeah, the aesthetic was very intriguing. I'm hoping that it's a game that I can enjoy because I do like a good Souls game. Quite easier. Well, I mean, it might be worth a try at least. I don't know. Perhaps after I finally finish Dark Souls 1, I might look into it. Because again, I really do enjoy the Souls-like. What's the word here? Combat flow. I don't particularly like how cheap some of the enemies feel at times. Because, you know, I used to be of the opinion that, you know, Dark Souls 1 was difficult but fair. Like, you know, if you screwed up, if you died, it was because you screwed up, plain and simple. Then I got to Anor Londo, and my opinion, that opinion just went down to the toilet. Because those guys that snipe you while you're on ledges like that, those can take those guys can go die in a hole somewhere. That is the nicest thing I will say on stream. All right. Yeah, that is a game that I would like to check out at some point, for sure. In the jet-black darkness of the land of the dead, the faint flickering of gold butterflies could be seen. It reminded them of the gentle stars in the night sky, which they had long forgotten. George remembered being told that he must not say anything, and he hurriedly covered his mouth. However, it felt like his heart was trying to jump into his throat, because he had seen Shannon's eyelids shake slightly. Then, those eyelids slowly opened. Shannon's eyes were there, but they were still wrapped in the fog of the land of the dead. However, the human world's warmth, no, her lover's warmth, which had called back her soul, slowly dissolved that fog, and her eyes gradually regained their sparkle. Then, her eyes moved and recognized George. George-san? As her lips shook weakly, Shannon definitely said that. The words were very faint, so much so they wouldn't normally have reached his ears. However, George clearly heard them. He heard the person he cared for, his fiancée, the one he loved most and who should have been dead, call his name once again. Shannon! Shannon! Do you know who I am? George-san? Is this a dream? No, this isn't a dream. Come on, see here. Even if I pinch you, you won't wake up. As George said that, he softly pinched Shannon's cheek. It was how George had always responded in the past when Shannon had been surprised by something and had asked if she was dreaming. When Shannon felt the warm touch of George's finger on her cheek, And when George realized that the warmth of the living had already returned to his beloved person's cheek, they both cried. What words should a pair of lovers separated by death celebrate when they are reunited? The words of the human world are not enough. In short, they had no need of the words of this world. George simply hugged Shannon, who was sitting up without talking. Shannon's strength was still feeble, and putting her arm around George's back took all she had. Rockstar Games is more about money to get. I mean, you would probably know better than I. So, I don't know that I've actually played any of Rockstar's games, so I'll take your word for it there. Rocksteady, on the other hand, I have played. Those Batman Arkham Asylum games. Fantastic stuff. Where was I? And putting her arms around George's back took all she had, so George hugged her tightly to make up for that. To stop each other from going once more to a place the other hand couldn't reach, they hugged each other so tightly, and yet so gently. As Shannon's fingers curled around George's back, on her ring finger, the engagement ring George had given her definitely shone. That strong glint certainly wasn't just the sparkle of diamond. There was definitely a magical power that only the two lovers could possibly feel. It was because that strong light existed that they had been able to find her casket in the land of the dead. Beato understood. That ring, no, the feelings of the pair embodied in that ring were a miracle made real. In that moment, George definitely used magic. Beato had done nothing more than help him along. That magic had a power that could only reside in those who knew the importance of life, who knew what it meant to try with all one's might. It was the power of a miracle, one that the Endless Witch couldn't possibly know of, a miracle that only the power of the finite could give rise to. By now, she had no choice but to accept it. She had to accept that true magic, true magical power, exists in the place furthest away from she who called herself a great witch. This her? If you're asking if this is Beatrice, yes, it is. Beatrice-sama. She brought you back to life. Thank you, Beatrice. No, I did nothing. What revived Shannon was your magical power. It was your magic. The Ushiromiya blood, which makes miracles come true, surely saw you through. George's son revived me. Indeed. It was an incredible display of magical power, one that I could not hope to compete with. So I am still nothing more than an apprentice. Now I finally know my place. Unless you're asking if this is Shannon, in which case, yes, that is also true. Beato staggered backwards. Her physical strength was clearly exhausted. She had humbly said that George's power alone had revived Shannon, but Beato had also used all of her magical and physical strength. And she reflected upon how difficult it was to revive a single life, something she'd been able to play around with however she wanted to in the past. The couple kept on embracing each other tightly. By doing that, those feelings that couldn't be communicated with a billion words were shared. Thank you, Beatrice. We are in your debt. Thank you very much, Beatrice-sama. I'll never forget the debt I owe you for bringing me to George again. Stop that, stop that. Being thanked by a pair of lovers is far too embarrassing for one who's been feared as a monster of a person. Don't worry about me. Celebrate your reunion together. To the fullest. Beato, who was leaning with her back against the wall, slid down the wall and sat.
How many centuries had it been since she last grew this tired from using magic?
I probably haven't been this tired since the first time I succeeded in magic. Didn't teacher praise me that time? Oh, but didn't I kill that same teacher who praised me? Don't be so naive, Beatrice. Isn't that what killing means? Finally. It seems you finally remembered how to use magic. Is Beatrice become good? Well, I mean, see for yourself. I don't know how else to explain this. Unless it is all an elaborate scheme. But then why would the narration make us think... Nah, the narration wouldn't lie to us, would it? Would it? Finally, it seems you finally remembered how to use magic. My head feels parched and suffocated, and I can't even remember. More importantly, didn't I kill you? You shouldn't be appearing. You are still allowing me to live even now. That is why I can appear like this. However, I did not come just to pat your head. Did you come to sneer at how pathetic I am? Anyway, if I have my head patted by a retired witch after all that's happened, the other witches will laugh at me. That's right. According to your bragging, you were not only a full adult, but a retired one. And yet, only now have you learned to use magic. That certainly does sound too embarrassing to tell anyone. Yeah, tell me about it. Keep it a secret, okay, teacher? Beato gazed at the couple hugging each other with a sense of pleasant despondency. Love, is it? I'm no match. 45. Data received. Firing preparations concluded. Ammo type selected and loaded. "410, firing!" I'm going to bed when you're going to be on. Nice. Okay, well, thank you. Okay, I will be back again on Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Time. I'm still going for tonight, but, you know, I'll be back on Sunday. I'll be playing more Earthbound then, finally. I hope I remember how to play, because it's been like a month. So, but yeah, hope you've had a good time, Rocky. Thank you for being here. I've enjoyed having you here. So you have a good rest of your evening. Talk to you later. Alright, 410, firing! The gold snake arrow fired by the Chiesters weaved its way through the bushes in the rose garden, weaved its way through the hedges, and climbed the stone steps towards the mansion's entrance, aiming for the keyhole. It weaved through the corridors and flew into the keyhole in the door to the parlor. It happened in an instant. One could hardly blame Beato, who was completely worn out, for not noticing it beforehand. Yes, Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Time, I will be back, for sure. Yeah, air conditioning's working, so I see nothing that should prevent me from doing so. I hope. Right before Beato's eyes, the gold snake flew in through the keyhole, surrounded the two lovers, and pierced the two hearts in the blink of an eye. Furthermore, the gold snake faithfully pierced a hole through Shannon's chest once more. The two hearts were pierced by that gold snake. No, by that gold sewing thread of the new brutal witch's furniture, and it had happened in an instant, mocking the amount of effort it had taken to revive Shannon.
Before Beato's shocked eyes, the two fell over and landed on the floor.
George? Shannon? Thank you, Beatrice, for letting us meet, even for just a short while. Thank you.
George spent his last breath thanking Beato and died alongside the one he loved. The gold snake, which still sewed the two in place, spun like a large cyclone revolving around the inside of the parlor. It was searching for further prey in that room. Then the tip of the snake met Beato's gaze. In that instant, Beato was prepared to die. At that moment, Virgilia stood in front of her, the fingers of both her hands drawing a seal. Instantly, gold-colored gold leaf buried the inside of the parlor. It was like a blizzard of gold.
Beato, run while you can! No one can escape from the Chester's golden bow. 410, target lost. Yeah, it's magical chaff. 45, roger that. Modifying search algorithm. Search switching to anti-personnel image-based tracking. Target lock reacquired. Data link to 410. 410, data received. Too slow, predecessor-sama. Coming. Impact!
Prey targeted by the Chester sisters' golden bow did not escape. It could not be blocked. No magical barrier could even dream of blocking it without being multi-layered. The gap opened during that instant of confusion caused by Virgilia's deception magic was Beato's only chance to escape. And it was the only chance to make the sisters confuse Virgilia for Beato. As Virgilia spread her arms wide, blocking the way to her beloved disciple, the gold snake pierced straight through her heart. After sneaking in through the keyhole, the snake shot through George, Shannon, and then Virgilia in an instant, completely failing to notice Beato as she used that instant to escape. As soon as Virgilia saw that Beato had gotten away, she died. The strength left her body, and like gold dust drifting with the wind, her form was erased. Beato completely erased all traces of her magical power, became gold butterflies, and passed through the wall, escaping to the wind and rain outside.
Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! You bitch! You bitch!
Beato felt regret from the bottom of her heart. Why? Because she had been attacked by the new witch? Probably not. Of course, she hated losing her teacher. And even more importantly, Beato was enraged at the barbarism that had boorishly stolen away the reunion between two lovers. Beato had poured out almost all of her magical power to reunite them. Even though the result had been a miracle, the time it took to steal that away had been so ridiculously short. Beato trembled at the barbarous cruelty that had brought about such an abrupt end. Besides, this was the true form of the act she herself had committed up until that point. So just as strongly as Beato hated the new witch, she also looked at her previous self with disgust. But now she had to escape. If she was targeted next, she would probably lose her life. To think that a chess player had descended thinking they were like a god, only to be attacked by the pieces.
"45. Impact confirmed. Target scattered. Without a doubt, we crushed the predecessor-sama. It looks like our pile of kill medals is gonna get bigger again. Yeah. What was that about loving couples? You get to enjoy tearing the two apart by death, reuniting them and tearing them apart again, right? And along with that, I get to say goodbye to that damn fussy old hag. Ronove, you don't have any complaints, right?
I do not, Beatrice-sama.
That person interfered with the ceremony of the witch's epitaph, you see. She revived the sacrifice from the first twilight without permission, obstructing my ceremony. She's got no right at all to complain. But it sucks that she didn't leave the corpse behind. And I thought I'd be able to torture that old hag to death over and over again endlessly. George did? No, I didn't see him. When did he come down? When, you say? What hour was that again? I think it was probably around 4 or 5. At the very least, it was more than an hour ago. We got sleepy and probably dozed off after that. I think it's probably like Jessica says, about 1 or 2 hours ago.
I also remember something from around that time. I was asked if I wanted more coffee.
Something hard to believe had happened. Apparently, when Aunt Ava had left for a second to wash her hands, Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsuki had disappeared. There's no way they went hiding somewhere. Of course, the doors and windows had all been rigorously checked, and were all locked from the inside. Not one of them was broken. Goodness. And that wasn't just true for the first floor. The second floor was the same. Again, all the doors and windows had locks built in a way that made it impossible to lock them from the outside. In other words, there was no way that Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsuki had gone outside, and yet they couldn't be found. Furthermore, they weren't the only ones who had disappeared. So had George Aniki, of all people. George Aniki had left saying he was going to get more coffee, and had gone downstairs more than an hour earlier. We'd assumed that he was having a conversation with Aunt Ava and the rest, and Aunt Ava, who'd been in the lobby the whole time, said that no one had come down. Since all the doors and windows were locked from the inside, it was unthinkable that they'd gone outside. However, 3 humans had evaporated from this barricaded guest house, which had become a perfect closed room. In a situation like this, we couldn't imagine that this was because they were playing hide-and-seek and trying to scare us with a prank. It was probably reasonable to assume that they'd been caught up in this crime. When Aunt Ava had learned that her only son was missing, she had gone half insane, running from room to room and yelling his name. And Jessica, who had suddenly lost both of her parents, had chased after her. Cries of "George, George," and "Mom, Dad" had continued to echo throughout the guest house for some time. I think George had said something about wanting to see Shannon's dead face. It'd be reasonable to assume that he snuck out of the guest house and went to the mansion. But I didn't have a clue about Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsuki. Did they see him leave and then go to the mansion to search for him? Without even telling Aunt Ava? At this rate, it'll only be a matter of time before we start planning to leave the guest house to go search for them. When that time comes, I'll agree. We thought staying holed up in the guest house would be safe, which is why our big happy group of 12 people locked themselves up here this morning. And now there's only 4 of us left. That means staying here is no guarantee of safety. Damida. Zen Damida. However, there's one thing we can't afford to forget. All the doors and windows were locked from the inside. This is a closed room. How did they manage to vanish from this place? We searched around thoroughly. However, we couldn't find any traces of someone hiding. The 3 of them had almost certainly been taken outside the guest house.
I wonder how it was done. I don't think there might be something like a hidden door.
Hidden door?
The doors and the windows were built in a way that makes them impossible to lock from the outside. Even using a fish line, it would...
Excuse me.
Even using a fish line would probably be impossible with the way they were constructed. So it may be reasonable to assume that they left via something other than a door or a window.
You're right. It does make logical sense. No one can be sure that no hidden doors exist. However, before leaping to that conclusion, I suspect a much simpler possibility.
And what would that be?
For some time, Battler had been opening windows, opening shutters, and checking outside, repeating this for each window. This window's pretty quiet. I see. Unlike the other windows, because of the how the building's shaped, the wind doesn't blow into this one.
It appears that way. It feels strange that no wind or rain comes in, even though there's so much of it outside.
Dr. Nanjo, when I opened the window just now, did you hear a sound?
Huh? No, I did not notice it. I believe it's well oiled.
In other words, it is possible to slink through a window in the hallway when no one's looking. Furthermore, the wind doesn't blow in through this window, so the air pressure wouldn't cause the curtains or a door to make a sound. It'd be quiet. Battler leaned forward and looked at the ground below. He was searching for some sign that George had jumped down, but at a glance he didn't see any mark like that on the grass in the middle of the pouring rain. There might also be a window like this on the first floor. It'd be possible to go outside without anyone noticing.
However, not only the doors, but the windows too are all locked, and the shutters are even down as well, correct? It may be possible to go out through them, but you couldn't lock them afterwards.
Sure, you can lock them. Just like this. Battler closed the window and locked it, as though this was perfectly obvious.
But, Battler-san, you aren't saying...
If someone inside locked it afterwards, this closed room is as easy as pie.
But that means... Oh!
Naojo turned pale and shook his head several times, because the thing that Battler had said had forced him to face a fact that was frightening even to imagine. That's only if the trick I'm thinking of actually happened, okay? However, with this trick, only a very limited number of people can be suspected. He didn't want to say it in front of Naojo, but after eliminating Jessica, who had been with him the whole time, only Naojo and Ava could have done it.
I did not do anything of the sort. Yes, I swear it.
In that case, it becomes a battle between Aunt Ava and Dr. Nanjo for an alibi. I've got an alibi for Nanjo. He couldn't fit through the window. Case closed. We just have to suspect both of you and confine the two of you separately. To say it the other way around, the more survivors there are, the more effective this trick might be. But since our numbers have shrunk so much, it isn't effective at all. No, on the contrary, there'd be a chance of having your own neck strangled by using it. It would have been more advantageous to make it look like the culprit was outside, to intentionally leave a door unlocked or break a window. If this disappearance drama had taken place midday today, I'd be able to claim this theory with full confidence. However, at this stage, I'm not confident at all. What's going on here? What in the world does it mean? This closed room.
You don't think,
Yeah? What is it, Dr. Nanjo? Even if it's just a thought, please say it. Nanjo looked like he was trying to swallow his words even though he thought of something, so I urged him on. After Dr. Nanjo refused several times, saying that it was just a foolish idea, he finally said it out loud.
Well, don't you think this might actually be the work of the witch?
Ridiculous! There's no way witches exist.
The witch is trying to make her case to us, specifically because she's doing things that humans cannot do. She must be trying to make us accept her as a witch. To me, this disappearance from the closed room of the entire guest house feels kind of like that message from the witch. It's something I must not think of. Surely it cannot mean anything. Oh, I'm frightened.
As Dr. Nanjo shook with fear, it looked like he was trying to erase the fearsome thoughts that he kept imagining one after the other. When we went downstairs, Aunt Ava and Jessica were enraged, and were each persistent in their desire to leave this place and search for their respective families. It was a desire that naturally hits those who can no longer see their family. Aunt Ava told Dr. Nanjo and me to stay here, but I shook my head and started walking. Oh, I've been shut up inside for a long time already. I'm started wanting to breathe some outside air. Yeah, if we're going, let's go quickly. There's no way I'm gonna keep myself shut up in a place like this anymore. Let's go find Mom, Dad, and George and Nissan right now. The blood had almost risen to Jessica's head. That doesn't set off her asthma. If anyone wants to stay, go ahead and stay. But let me searching outside. What about you, Dr. Najo? Will you watch the place by yourself?
No. Allow me to join you.
Rather than holding up alone in a guest house, security was by no means guaranteed. It would be better when you enter a danger zone as a group of 4 people. And Ava had a gun. Moving separately from her was almost like asking it to be made into the next victim. Yeah, precisely because she's the one with the gun. Well, except... Well, from a logical standpoint, if witches have nothing to do with this, I would be very wary of anyone with a gun. At the same time, anyone with a gun is also your best means of protection, so... Yeah. In this way, the 4 of us decided to leave the guest house. Even though it should have been safe to barricade ourselves here, we lost 8 people after doing so. It was almost as though okay, that it shouldn't be there. Okay, that's what the problem is. It was almost as though this was a holding cell from which the sacrifices could be killed one after another. We removed the chain, unlocked the front door, and opened it. It was already pitch black. While there were some lights outside that dimly lit the pathway, they didn't have enough power to pierce the darkness that some suspicious person might be hiding in. I'm going. If you fall behind, you're on your own, okay? Still holding her gun, Aunt Ava dashed out without an umbrella. Jessica followed out after her. After glancing at each other, Dr. Nanjo and I chased after them. What in the world is happening in this mansion on this island? I've just been shut up in the guest house with the rest of the cousins since yesterday. I don't know anything about what's going on outside. Just what is happening that I don't know about outside this room in the mansion on this island? Everything is happening. Everything is proceeding. And everything is ending without my knowing it. Somewhere in my heart, I've already started giving up. Most likely, not one of us will see tomorrow morning. When the seagulls cry, nobody will be left alive. I knew it. I knew it was a chapter break right there. Okay. Alright, we are... I want to say... Okay. Okay, chapter 17. I don't know... I don't know for sure how many chapters there are in episode 3. But, yeah, so I'm not sure if this next Umineko stream should wrap things up or if the one after that should. It's hard to say for sure. But... yeah, I think there's probably about 2 more streams of Banquet of the Golden Witch. Anyway, so... Sunday I'll be back with more Earthbound. And... that will be... Okay, why are words failing me right now? Good grief. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and give Frankly Fraz a raid. But this is Dr. Novelle signing out for the evening. Thank you all so much for being here. It's been good to be back. Good to have you back. Hope to see you again on Sunday when I stream more Earthbound and on Wednesday when I stream more Umineko. But you all have a good one. Let's begin the raid.